Hello and welcome to The Gaggle, where we challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Szamuely. With me today, of course, is Peter Lavelle, co-founder of The Gaggle, host also of RT's talk show Crosstalk. The Biden administration, which declared that America is back, is finding it very difficult to come up with any particularly distinctive foreign policy positions, having declared that they're going to reverse Trump's foreign policies. We're finding more and more that they're just simply continuing with them. I mean, on Venezuela, for instance, they're continuing with this ridiculous regime change operation against President Maduro. They've been doing a song and dance routine on Iran, whether they will go back to the JCPOA, they won't go back to the JCPOA, but they just simply, America's back means America's back drifting aimlessly. Now, having shaken its fist at Russia, it just has first signed an agreement on the New START treaty, meaning that it's going to renew them for 5 years, accepted all of Russia's terms, the very terms that the Trump administration had refused to accept. And now they seem to have also accepted Germany's terms on Nord Stream 2, although the Biden administration has promised to impose sanctions on the various companies that are involved in building the Nord Stream 2 natural gas pipeline from Russia to Germany. In fact, these sanctions don't go anywhere beyond what the Trump administration had imposed. In fact, they're exactly the same. The thinking there, probably, and it's hard to know what the thinking is, that the United States needs Germany as an ally for its whatever policies, it's America is back policies, and therefore it doesn't make any sense to antagonize the Germans. But in which case, then what is it all about? Because after all, it means that Russia gets what it wants, Germany gets what it wants, and what's the United States' end game here? Trying to unpack what the Biden administration foreign policy is no easy task. What do you think, Peter?
Yeah, we're a month and 4 days in, and we've gotten a lot of lecturing, a lot of barking, a lot of finger pointing, chest beating, but very little has moved. The needle hasn't moved very much at all. Now, this could be part of the transition. Fine, I'm willing to give them that. Okay, fine. But when I look at the confirmation hearings for example, Blinken, he was beating his chest and everything, but I don't see any real change. The thing is that they have a dilemma. They're coming in after the Trump administration, the evil orange man and his coarse foreign policy, alienating allies, and we can go on and on and on. Right. That's just rhetorical. I mean, I would make the argument that Trump didn't go nearly far enough. Okay, and what even he suggested, he almost got nothing through, almost nothing. Moved an embassy. Okay, great. Okay. Which was a bad move. Anyway, got out of a very important deal with Iran. I thought that was a very big mistake, because we're seeing now it's going to be very hard to get back into it, okay, without having to have to make concessions. And if you read the agreement with Iran, it's bulletproof. It's bulletproof. That's what they designed it that way. Right. So, but with this thing with Germany, I think it's really interesting. This also may also play into the fact of the result of Brexit. Germany has become far more important now as the lead EU country. Don't tell Macron, but it's true. It's Germany, and I think that the Biden administration is thinking, yeah, I mean, what we're going to do if we continue down this path of making sure the Nord Stream 2 isn't finished, you're going to alienate the Germans and the Russians. Not a good idea, okay? Because that pipeline will be finished. It will be finished, okay? Hell or high water, it's going to be finished. And And it's very much in line with the European Union's energy policy of natural gas. Okay, so that is in play here. But you're absolutely right. We watch it very closely with a laser-like aptitude towards it. But I've been kind of probing around too. What I keep seeing is I'm wondering if the Biden administration is saying, let's not upset the cart in Europe, because they're beginning to turn more and more of their focus to China, and they're going to need the European countries of NATO to be part of that, because they want to build this coalition. It's a coalition of democracies and all of this, of values, and so. From the get-go, do you want to alienate the Germans, the powerhouse of Europe, the decision maker of Europe? Right. So I think that may be part of it here. But I'll default to my first position. I think they're just looking at a reassessment because they want to see how much they can undo of Trump and to make them so much different. But I would argue Trump was more rhetorics than anything else. That the foreign policy out of think Tankistan in Washington D.C. it's a DNA problem. Okay, I mean, this is a legacy of Trump. Trump is trying to undo everything that Obama did. Okay. And he did. The Iran deal was the most important one. But other than that, very little changed. Okay, except for tweets and rhetorics, and some great pictures of Trump visiting Europe. Pointing at people, hitting people with elbows. Other than that, it's not much.
Right. But that's the interesting thing, because the famous picture is the kind of it will become the iconic photograph of the Trump administration. I can't remember whether it's 2017 or 2018. Where he's sitting, exactly, arms crossed, and everyone is standing around him, glowering at him, and he's looking at them defiantly, contemptuously, with Merkel and everyone. But that iconic photograph illustrates something, which is that it's been a long-standing European nightmare that at some point, somebody will come to power in Washington who will say, what the hell are we doing? Subsidizing the European welfare state, subsidizing Germany's export-driven economy at our own expense, paying for a military alliance that is completely useless. Why don't we Americans tend to our own economic problems and try and get back to where we once were, and rather than a country running massive trade deficits and essentially shipping jobs overseas. Somebody was going to come along. And so it was a European nightmare when Trump was suddenly in power, hence the sort of glaring at him. With the return of normality, America's back. For the Europeans, this is great. I mean, Merkel thinks nice, we'll talk all about, democracies, values, blah, blah, blah. In the meantime, we'll carry on as before. We'll do our own little business interest. If America wants to subsidize a useless military alliance, great. We don't have to spend our money on our military. And so,
I don't think Joe's going to be too particular about the 2%, budget expenditures on military. He's going to let that slide. They let things slide. And Merkel you're absolutely right. Let's do the values thing. Let's talk about this nice shiny military alliance, NATO. But Joe, I want my gas. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Gas. We'll be exporting to China and everywhere. So our great manufacturing industry, the famous German manufacturing industry, will be doing as nicely as before. And the nightmare of Trump will be gone. Suddenly Trump raised the issue. Hey, the bloody euro is undervalued. We're tired of this. We're going to start imposing tariffs on European goods. We're going to start, essentially saying, we're basically subsidizing your exports at our own expense. All this was a kind of a nightmare for the Germans. So well, Trump is, has frayed his alliances. Yeah, because for the first time, you have an administration that is actually addressing, issues that should have been addressed decades ago.
And the important thing too is that Joe is an old Atlanticist himself. Okay, so when he went to Munich, he got to rub elbows or knock elbows. I don't know if they're shaking hands yet in Europe. And it just basically, well, we're going to kind of rewind the clock. We're going to go back the way it was. We all know the terms and conditions here, and for that, Nord Stream 2, we're not going to, poke our nose into it. Why stir up anything here? Let's get the band back together again, okay? Because I think that obviously it's other parts of the world. It was very interesting that the Atlanticist, and I separate that from the other elites in Europe. They're perfectly willing to go along with old Joe on Afghanistan and Iraq. To some degree on Iran, because we've heard things coming out of Brussels. Wagging their finger in Iran. So it's kind of like the playbook is back together again. Why should we annoy our major player? Across the pond. I think that's how I would look at it. Okay.
No, I exactly right. And so for the Europeans, this is, they're very happy because it means, all right, if America wants to get itself into fights with Russia and China, let them, I mean, if that's what they want to do, that we're not going to get involved in it. That's their friend. If America wants to get involved in more stupid wars in the Middle East, wants to get again down in Syria or in Iraq, let them do so. Now, there's obviously a drawback, as they found in 2015 with the flow of refugees. But essentially, I mean, for the Europeans, it's not really a problem if America wants to get itself into stupid wars. It's only a problem for Europe if America starts thinking about its own national interest. And so long as it's thinking about all these globalist things, we want to go on this democratic crusade. We want to, have a community of values and whatnot. Yeah, that's fine.
Go ahead.
Go right ahead.
Captain Joe. All right, sign up, everybody. Okay, as long as the material interests of these countries are protected. You're absolutely right. They'll go along with the rhetoric, and they're actually quite good at it, except for if your name is Joseph Borrell. They'll go along with it because it's for me, it's kind of like how Trump looked at moving the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, or recognizing Israel's illegal right to the Golan Heights. No downside for me. It doesn't cost me anything. And the Europeans are like, that's what you guys want to do. Okay, yeah, we're allies. Okay, but there's no real material cost, except for, like as you said, in 2015, if there's a wave of immigrants coming in, then that's something they're going to have to be concerned with. But I think they've learned their lesson too. They're going to be very wary of that. And plus, the Europeans, particularly Germany, is far more concerned with Turkey than it is with Russia, for example.
That's right. It is a kind of an interesting, alliance in which the Europeans are more than happy when America is entangled in stupid wars, because it gives them leverage, because then the Americans come back to them and say, oh, please, can you join us in this war? I mean, it's a little game they've been playing really since Vietnam. I mean, America got involved in Vietnam. None of the Europeans joined. I mean, so it was a fight against communism, but hey, we're good. You want to fight in Southeast Asia, you go ahead and do it. Then, include us out.
But see, what these European globalists, they're good at paying lip service. Mm-hmm. But it's like Iraq. Yeah, we'll send a few latrines. Okay, we're part of your coalition. Okay, and if you need some spray paint, I think we've got some extra. Okay, what color do you need? That's the kind of stuff, because they don't want to make a huge material investment in somebody else's war, but you keep the guy in the White House happy. And as long as you don't go after our trade, we can play nice to each other. It's very pragmatic that way. That's why that Borrell visit was so bizarre, because what did it have to do with anything? And on top of it, you want to beat your chest about Navalny and all of that. We have Amnesty International coming out, no longer recognizing him as a prisoner of conscience because he's a bigot, and we all know it, and they should have known it.
Right. No, that's a very interesting development. So having conditioned relations with Russia on the fate of Navalny, It's kind of an embarrassment. And, as you said, all this has been known. I mean, you see these videos of him talking in rather obnoxious ways about immigrants and so on, they're all available. I
You're
mean,
being very kind by saying obnoxious, George.
yes, yes. And so, this has all been ignored. And instead, the Europeans and the Americans have presented Navalny as some kind of an Andrei Sakharov, Alexander Solzhenitsyn figure, kind of a leading dissident with a huge following in Russia. Well, it wasn't even remotely true. And so, having sort of staked this out and having made fools of themselves, I mean, it wasn't just that they conditioned relations on Navalny, but Borrell going to Moscow, raising the Navalny issue when he had been warned by Lavrov, don't do this, because if you do it, we're going to raise all sorts of other. Having been warned, he still went ahead and did it.
Well, statecraft at its highest,
right? Exactly.
Its highest excellence. Okay. No, but okay, we're going to keep a really close eye on this, but it's interesting to me what's happening right here. Again, you could make the comparison to Trump, a lot of bluster, and a lot of, throwing out values and all of this, but at the end of the day, they're keeping the eye on the serious things, okay? If they really do care about alliances and allies, then don't step on the throat of one of your most important ones, and that's Germany.
Right. No, exactly. So in a sense now, they said, okay, we're now conditioning our relations on keeping the Germans happy. And with a view to what? I mean, what's the end goal here? I mean, it's like that it just isn't clear. They think, oh, we need this alliance, the transatlantic alliance, but you're still going to have to then address the key issue: transatlantic alliance directed against what? Who's the enemy? Who are you taking on? And so, I mean, if you say, okay, well, natural gas, find natural gas. So I thought, Russia was the enemy. That was you're going to deal with Russia. So what exactly is the goal? And they have no idea, other than the usual kind of self-congratulation, values, transatlantic alliance and so on. There's no end game here. There's no goal here.
Well, the Obama administration definitely had a B team foreign policy staff, and it's just migrated to Biden. So it's so far, it's a very mediocre, well credentialed, I can guarantee you, but very mediocre in outlook. Okay, they don't really have any new ideas. Trump had a lot of ideas. I don't think he always articulated them very well, and he certainly wasn't allowed to. He was not allowed. Let me repeat, to enact them. Okay, so now we're back where we were. But the Obama foreign policy was an abject failure. Keep that in mind, everybody.
Right. Well, that's why it's again quite likely that in this sea of cluelessness, they may well wade into another Middle East war. I mean, it looks like they're kind of trying to do that in Syria. Looks like they're trying to escalate their involvement in Afghanistan. So it looks like that this is, they're going to do that. But of course, their allies are not going to join them. The Germans aren't going to join them in Syria. The Germans aren't going to join them in Afghanistan. So again, it's like, blood and treasure being spent. And, right, we're right behind you. We're right with you.
George, a lot of people don't know this, but NATO as a military alliance is a bit of an embarrassment, okay? I mean, they don't spend money on it. Very few people go into the military as a career. I mean, I wouldn't want to go into a military conflict with the Germans on my back, because I don't think, they have a storied history. Thank God it ended in 1945, okay? Say no more, okay?
Right,
No,
right.
but all of these militaries, I mean, the French and the British have some aircraft capacity, some seafaring capacity, but it's very, very limited, okay? I mean, they can't pull, I mean, if you look at like the French military, it's basically counterinsurgency in Africa. That's what their military expertise is right now. And I'm not an expert on it, so I'm not gonna say any more than that. But the British, well, again, they have capacity only if it is paired up with the United States, because that's the coalition of the willing that the U.S. wants, but they don't really want anything else. Okay.
No, no, that's yes. It's as you say, it's the sort of the dirty little secret of NATO is it's essentially kind of
It doesn't work.
they all fought poorly. I mean, the British fought in Iraq. They fought very poorly. I mean, they essentially withdrew from Iraq because they were pretty much losing every battle there. Same with the French. I mean, they fought poorly. So all of these kind of like, even when they were bombing Yugoslavia, they said, well, this is the alliance, where we're all back together again. It was all the United States. I mean, there was never, the presence of the Europeans was just a fig leaf to show that this is international. It was all the United States. These are people who are really militarily incompetent. I mean, they don't know how to fight. Look, I mean, the dirty little secret is the British have been pretty lousy at fighting wars for a long time. And
it's the Falklands.
Yeah, exactly. But think about World War I, World War II. That sort of all the embarrassments in World War II. They haven't been very good. The Germans, they have they've just pretty much extirpated all of that. I mean, they used to be very good, but they've removed all of that from their psyche. So now they're completely useless. So yeah, I mean, this whole thing, NATO is a kind of a fig leaf for the United States.
No, but when I visited, it was many years ago, I interviewed President Zarkai in Kabul. And I was taken to a NATO military base, and it was so funny. Like, you see these, like, they have 2 Georgians, 1 Macedonian. I mean, this is a real international crowd here. Okay, and but it was all symbolic. Okay, and then I think, what was it in? It was in Iraq. I don't remember what country it was, like the Netherlands. It's part of their troops contract that they can't fight at night. And another army, they don't fight in the snow, okay? Because they all have contracts. It's like the militaries are unionized, okay? So right. It's too cold out. We're not going to fight today.
No, I don't think so. Too cold. And my foot hurts. I don't think I can do it when my foot hurts.
Maybe tomorrow. I'm watching Netflix. Okay. I'm sorry. I mean, we're making light of it, but there's a lot of truth into it in this. Okay. I mean, basically, it is a fig leaf. You have all these flags, but one country is paying for it, and it's the American taxpayer, as the government is bankrupting the country with bad trade deals. Okay?
That's right.
Don't get me started.
Exactly. And so it's long been a kind of European nightmare. Is at some point someone is going to come along in Washington who will say enough is enough. Why are we subsidizing European welfare states when we don't have any welfare at home? I mean, it's like, they have a universal health care. The United States does not. Well, no money for universal health care. But
free education. Yeah, free education. Exactly.
So now Trump seemed that he was going to raise these issues, but in the end, he didn't. And there were obviously various reasons why he didn't. But that's why these alliances were frayed, because he actually did raise them. I mean, this was their nightmare that they've been waiting for decades. Somebody was going to raise these issues. So hence their fury and their relief about Biden. The good times are back. The allies are back, and there's Boris Johnson repeating, build back better. So that, sucking up. That's it.
Well, I'm sure they're not particularly concerned with Joe's mental state. No. It's like, leave Joe alone.
Right.
I mean, because not only does you need someone to translate Biden speak now. Okay, and I'm sure he's going to have special what the president is trying to say, or what I think he's saying. I mean, really, I think it's a relief for all of them over there. And on a very important note here, It's very, very good at this point in time. They back up on the Nord Stream thing.
Yes.
This is very important for Germany. It's very important to Russia. And it's very important to have that kind of clean energy for Europe. Okay,
Right.
I'm not the greenest guy in the world, but when I see a good idea, I can spot it.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, if you've got a situation in which everyone is now turned against fossil fuels, and the Germans have now turned against nuclear energy, well, what else is there? I mean, that's then the only option. It's cheap and it's clean. So that's why the Germans turned to the Russians. I mean, it wasn't the Russians who said, "Oh, please, 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 sign a deal with us." It was the Germans. It was Merkel's idea to build this
Because there was
to get around these countries like Poland and Ukraine because it was unreliable.
Let's keep in mind there's the Nord Stream pipeline that is in operation right now, but because of the perception and reality of long-term instability in Ukraine, don't take any risks. Have another pipeline come in. We're at full capacity, and I want to keep it. Everyone should keep in mind that Germany is the hub. It goes to the rest of the continent. Okay, Germany is the hub for this natural gas, and so it's not just Germany's concern. It's Austria is very concerned with this as well. So it's a really smart thing. The thing is I'm not a libertarian, but libertarians always say good trading countries don't have military conflicts. Take that on board, okay? Yeah. Why would Germany, part of NATO, part of the European Union, want to mess up a good relationship in that sector with Russia? Because Russia certainly doesn't. It paid for the pipeline after all.
Yeah. No, that's exactly it. So, the Biden people have kind of blundered their way into a sensible policy, not to escalate.
Good job.
Renewing the New START treaty, they kind of blundered their way into a sensible policy. I mean, they kind of wanted to distance themselves, in that case, distance themselves from Trump, but then they came up with something, okay, well, that's a good idea. Why not, renew an arms control agreement.
Everybody watching this here, George and I are for good policy decisions, okay, wise decisions, realism, restraint. And if that's what the Biden administration can do, bravo, got no problem with it.
Right. All right, Peter, we will maintain our laser-like focus on the Biden team and Biden's mental capacity. Remember, we are now on Rumble, so look us up on Rumble. And if you like the gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye.